Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard from pewterreport.com with Scott Reynolds, also of pewterreport.com. And Scott, it's a wonderful Wednesday, and we're ready to close the door on this victory over the Panthers and move on to what we hope is going to be another victory over the New York Jets, depending on who's even going to be in for this game. We'll see how many starters are out for both these teams by the time week 17 gets here.
Yeah, this is, we're in college bowl season right now. Some of the bowls are going on. Some have been canceled. This is going to be the COVID bowl between the Jets and the Bucs up in New York, it seems, between some injuries and some people on the COVID list, including head coach Bruce Arians right now. And I guess Robert Saleh just got off the list in New York, according to latest reports. So we're going to have all of that news of as of right now, who's in and who's out and who we think will be back. But there's a lot to break down. And, this should be a game the Buccaneers win, even with their JV squad. I think they could probably beat the Jets. But at the same time, listen, any given Sunday, and especially when you have a couple of key guys out, some due to injury, the latest of which Shaq Barrett, of course, and then some guys due to COVID, it can change things, right? So,
absolutely, yeah. This is the whole dynamic of what's going on right now could change at any moment. In fact, we were just kind of getting the injury report and kind of eyeballing it right before we went live and trying to see if there was anything else going on, but more than anything, I think it's COVID, right? Like there's some unpredictability, and we haven't heard anything else today about any COVID positives. And acting head coach, interim head coach Harold Goodwin was not asked about it today at the media availability. So we're just waiting, and usually it's been coming out around this time of the day, I think, and so hopefully that nothing else comes out. But if people are still catching up with the situation right now in COVID protocols for the Bucs, head coach Bruce Arians, wide receivers coach Kevin Garver, wide receiver Brashad Perryman has come off the COVID list and he's back on the roster. And instead, Mike Evans is still on the COVID list. Jalen Darden is on the COVID list. Rakeem Nunez-Roches is still on that list. Darden and Nacho should be eligible to come off soon as long as their symptoms have decreased. They should be good to go. As long as they aren't having any symptomatic issues or whatever, they should be good to go for this week. And we'll see about Evans, who tested positive, I believe would have been Sunday, but they get the results Sunday night or Monday or something like that, I think. And then Sean Murphy-Bunting and Jamel Dean were placed on the list yesterday, so they would have tested positive Monday. And so we'll see. Those guys, they could be back under the new protocol rules. We just have to wait and see how that goes for them. And so that's kind of the situation right now with COVID with the Bucs. With the Jets, it's way more complicated. I have no clue when. They have like 20 dudes on COVID list, but then 6 came off today, or maybe more because 3 went to the practice squad. So we'll just have to wait and see. There's not even any point. I mean, just see who clears and who doesn't. I know they expect both their guards back by the time the game is played. They're on the COVID list.
You're talking about both their guards, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, and then the other guard,
Elijah Vera Tucker. All these guards with 3 names. It's like the Bucs defensive line. But yeah, they have. It's going to be the matchup of. I just realized this: D line versus O line. If you get Nacho out there and Pierre-Paul plays this week, you have Jason Pierre-Paul, Rakeem Nunez-Roches,
and then
Joe
nickel,
Tryon-Shoyinka,
exactly
against Laurent Duvernay-Tardif and Elijah Vera Tucker, and you got all so a little subplot there.
The best hyphens win.
That's right. That's truly what it's going to be. But I think that, we'll just have to wait and see kind of how that part of it plays itself out. But I know one thing, Scott, we're trying to stay off any out lists ourselves because we need to be at our best this week.
We do.
When we're covering this team and covering this upcoming game. And to do that, we got to be drinking our Celsius. There's no other way to do it. Celsius powers active lives every day with essential functional energy. The blueberry pomegranate, it's a great flavor. It's one of my favorites. Rocking that today. Celsius Heat Edition. There's tons of flavors, though. Whatever what you like, you can get into Celsius. There's no sugar in Celsius. It's unbelievable. They can get this taste without sugar, without the bad stuff you find in other energy drinks. And, of course, there's also no crash either, and that's one of the best parts of it. And so definitely check out Celsius. You can use the banner ads at Celsius or at pewterreport.com to find out where Celsius are near you. Celsius.com will tell you as well. They'll use the store locator. Do the Amazon subscribe and save option as well. Get Celsius coming to you on the regular.
Yeah.
Scott, we should probably touch on the injury report before we get much further into this
Let's
one.
do
I
it.
think, since there were
John, you do the injuries, I'll do the weather.
okay. The weather. You want to
Yeah.
do the weather first?
We can do the weather first because I've got the weather pulled up right here. The weather
was gonna say.
forecast for Sunday up in New York, not nearly as good as Tampa. Back to you, John. No, I'm kidding.
I was going to say, of course.
No, Sunday, actually, it's going to be kind of balmy. It's going to be 55 degrees for the high. It's
Are you
1 o'clock
serious?
kickoff. Yeah, 55 degrees with showers. Okay, so no snow. There's a front coming through New York on Saturday and Sunday. It's going to bring rain on Saturday, and on Sunday we're going to have showers. 51% chance for showers on Sunday, so those could be gone by kickoff. 89% on Saturday. So you've got the front coming through. It is going to be windy on Sunday. They're expecting 18-mile-per-hour winds, swirling winds up there in New York, obviously. And then it gets cold the next day, but it's partly cloudy on Monday. It's 34 degrees. So the Bucs are missing some frigid weather, being a warm weather team.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to deal with some weather conditions. The good news, they've played in some rain before up in New England when they were up there back in week 4. So they've got some experience in a little bit of a wet weather game. We'll see. The forecast might change in between now and Sunday, but as it stands right now, 55 degrees and showers, 51% chance of rain.
Yeah, it's that's not bad at all. I mean, not that I expect weather to be a huge issue if the Bucs do have to play somewhere cold. We talked about this last year when they were going to Green Bay. I just thought it was the most overhyped thing. Like Green Bay's not out there practicing in the cold every day either. Like they're not like that's not normal practice regimen for a lot of these teams. And so I completely hear you on that. The injury report. Shaq Barrett obviously did not participate. Probably going to see a lot of that with him over the next 2 weeks because he's not going to go to IR or anything.
Right.
And then Antonio Brown with an ankle was limited. Don't expect that. That's kind of how he's been. I think he was limited all last week too and just played. Mike Edwards, full participant with an elbow. So that's a different one for him. An elbow, full participant. Brashad Perriman got a rest day. He was a limited participant. Got a rest day, not injury related.
Not arrested.
So just fresh off the COVID
it's
list.
A rest day.
That's right. Yeah. And today's a walkthrough anyway. So, Jason Pierre-Paul did not participate with that shoulder injury. Bradley Pinion participated with that hip injury. Just to pause real quick. Bradley Pinion's injury has been the weirdest thing to me, Scott. Like this has been something Bruce Arians has talked about for weeks on Bucs Total Access, at least. Bradley Pinion, he only won't punt if he's healthy. If he's not healthy, that's how we'll determine it. Then when he's been asked about some of Pinion's worst performances in games, he said he doesn't think it has anything to do with the injury. So which is it? I don't understand.
How that can
and he said these
be.
in the same interviews sometimes. And then he said on Bucs Total Access this week, it was interesting. He said Pinion actually went to him. They talked about it last week and they were like, would a week off help you feel better moving forward, like punting and stuff? If that's bothering you at all. And Pinion told him, yes, he thinks it would. So that's when they elevated Sterling Hofrichter. But Pinion was not given any injury designation for the game. He was on the list all week, but he was a full participant all week.
Yeah.
And then, he was not given an injury designation for the game. And then he was inactive. So Arians is saying Pinion, will probably be back this week and should be back to 100%. Well, he didn't participate today and he participated all last week and didn't play. So I have no idea what that means for Bradley Pinion, but that situation has been bizarre. And then Richard Sherman is still on here, did not participate with an Achilles. He only played 3 snaps, I believe, on Sunday. He was their dime defender right now, Scott. Just put it all over the place. They got Kevin Minner off the field for a couple reps, 3rd and longs, and got Richard Sherman out there. So we'll see what happens with him. And then Grant Stewart, full participant with an elbow. And Antoine Winfield did not participate, even though Rick Stroud and some others that were there said he was out there for the beginning of practice. So
he might have been out there, but
I don't know. It's walkthrough, so it's hard for them to tell. Probably.
First of all, it's a walkthrough. You're right. Second of all, the media gets the first 30 minutes of practice, and that consists of playing catch, calisthenics,
if you're lucky,
talking,
and half the players not being out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not exactly the end all be all in terms of reporting because some crafty veterans, Antonio Brown's one of them, will kind of walk out there right when the media leaves. So sometimes we kind of miss those things. Joey Salas, appreciate that. Don't forget to hit the like button, folks. What that does is if you're watching us on YouTube, whether it's live or whether you're watching the recorded podcast, make sure that you hit the subscribe button subscribe to Pewter Report TV on YouTube, and then hit the like button. That helps us with the algorithms, helps other Buccaneer fans find our content, watch our podcasts, and we greatly appreciate that. You know what we forgot to do on Monday, John? Casey and I forgot to do roll call. So see here we got David in here from Ware, Mississippi. We've got Aloha. I'm guessing, Joey, you're in Hawaii, or you're just using the Hawaiian phrase. So in about 10 minutes, once we get a few more folks in here, John's going to enlighten us with something Buccaneer related for about a minute or two. And while you're listening to John, you can type in where you're from. We'll do roll call, and I'll try to put up as many of those as we can. And we'll see exactly where y'all are from today, whether it's from the Sunshine State, whether it's from America, whether it's from one of our international friends around the world. So we'll do that in about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Callum wants to know, can you see more rotation in these two games considering the NFC South is all tied up? No, Callum, not at this point, because there's still a lot to be gained for the Bucs. They can get the 2 seed. All the Bucs need to get the 2 seed is to win their last 2 games against the Jets and Panthers. And then they need, after that, is Rams lost. The Rams play the Ravens and the 49ers. They already lost the 49ers once. The hope is maybe Lamar's back this week against the Rams, and we'll just see how everything else plays out with COVID and all that. But they kind of are hanging in there, hoping for one of those things to happen. So the Bucs will probably play their starters the rest of the way, would be my guess, because I think, Scott, I mean, if they can't, even if they win and the Rams lose this week, nothing's locked up. They still wouldn't have the 2 seed locked up. Right. Because like if they lost next week and the Rams won, then the Rams would be back in control. So I don't see there being a path really where the Bucs rest people the last week of the season.
I don't like that anyways. I really don't.
I don't really either. I mean, obviously I don't want to risk injury over meaningless, but I'm glad, hopefully it won't be a decision. Like if they were locked into the 2 seed, I would almost dislike that, because then it puts them, you kind of have to rest people. There's nothing to play for, but I don't like resting people that long.
I remember, and I want to say it was 2000. It was either 2000 or 2001, one of those 2 years. Tony Dungy and the Buccaneers played a meaningless game in week 17. So it was the last game of the season at home against the Eagles. And they actually lost that game, but they played almost all their backups because they were going to play the Eagles in the first round of the playoffs the next week. So it was like a very vanilla game. It was a very boring game. The Buccaneers lost, and then they played their starters against the Eagles, and they got crushed up in Philly. And I don't know if it was just losing to the Eagles the week before with the backups, and it just didn't carry over, translate. I don't know, but I just not a fan of that. You got to play.
Let's talk about this a little bit too while we're on Callum's question, and then we've got a couple other good questions to move on to before we start previewing the Jets. But this is interesting to me because I actually think the 2 seed could be a big deal right now.
Oh yes,
the Packers. Totally, I am torn. Everybody knows who follows me that I believe in the numbers like a good bit when it comes to these things. And the numbers really indicate that the Packers should not be considered the same threat that the Cowboys and the Bucs are to win the Super Bowl. Which
totally agree.
I know they've won 2 games in a row, very close games against COVID destroyed teams, and I get that part of it. But the Packers also, and they lost to the Chiefs barely with Jordan Love at quarterback, and he played horrendous. And they lost week 1 to the Saints. That was a long time ago. Like they've only lost twice since then, and once was
lost to the Ravens. I mean,
and if they don't drop that
conversion away,
they did right. They almost lost to the Ravens. They almost lose to the Browns, but they didn't lose. And so I do feel like there's some value to like going through a whole season and saying, okay, we lost once with their backup quarterback, and we dropped a Kirk Cousins pick on the game-winning drive by the Vikings. I think twice maybe in that game. And so I think, when you look at the context of something, you're like, man, they're good. But again, just what I was saying, the numbers kind of indicate that the Packers might not be as good of a team. One of the big predictors, basically, of future success is point differential. And right now, the Packers are significantly an outlier in terms of point differential compared to past Super Bowl champions. At least I would like to see this list expanded to like conference championship participants and to see how far of an outlier they are. But just to give you an idea, the Packers, I think, are like plus 55 maybe in point differential or something this season. But compare it to like the Bucs, for example, last year were like plus 137. The Chiefs, when they won, plus 143, plus 111 for New England, plus 162 for Philly, plus 191 for New England.
They've been winning close games, but not
Denver won it at plus 59. But it's not a lot of examples of it in the last 10 years. And even if you look at the league this season, the Packers I believe they're not in the top 10 in terms of point differential, but they have the best record in the league. That's pretty bizarre. So in other words, the numbers indicate the Packers are probably a little bit worse than the record, which is obviously the best record in the NFL. I don't know how much I completely buy it, but it's enough to make me think, okay, if they can get that 2 seed, maybe they avoid the Packers until what would be the championship game.
Right.
They get to play at home twice, and then they're in a situation where, okay, the Packers might get knocked off by whoever wins in the wild card round.
And then all of a sudden the Bucs are hosting the NFC Championship game if they win those 2 games. I agree. Right. I totally agree. Exactly. I think whether it's that scenario, whether it's the Buccaneers win their 2 playoff games at home and then the Packers lose, then they get the NFC Championship game at home. Mm-hmm. I think that's a path. I also think the other path is the Bucs win their 2, the Packers win their 2, and it's Tampa Bay, Green Bay in Lambeau, and I think the Bucs have a ton of confidence against the Packers, especially up there. They did it last year. There's no psychological, battle that you've got to play. I mean, they dominated the Packers.
I agree with you. It's a different psychological thing with the Rams even too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Correct. Totally is.
And that's why I think it'd be interesting because, say, if the Bucs get the 2 seed and the Rams lose again, the Rams fall to the 4 seed, the Cowboys would be the 3 seed, the Bucs would be the 2 seed. If the Bucs win in the first round against, and obviously we're getting ahead of ourselves, we know that, but that's part of our job. If the Bucs win as the 2 seed over the 7 seed,
we're not saying anything the Buccaneer fans don't want to hear.
That's right.
So
this is just mathematically how it would play out. The Bucs beat the Eagles in the first round, and the Cowboys beat whoever the 6 seed is. Let's say it's the 49ers.
Right.
And the Rams beat the Cardinals in the first. If all the high seeds win, in other words, in that scenario, the Packers would play the Rams, and the Cowboys would, as the 3 seed, would play the Bucs as the 2 seed. Right. And I think most Bucs fans would probably say, given the history against the Rams in recent years, that they'd rather play the Cowboys, considering that they basically, they actively beat themselves in week 1 and still beat the Cowboys. So, but having said that, Dallas, in my opinion, might be the best team in the NFL right now.
They're pretty hot right now. They're rolling.
That was because they can cover and they're opportunistic and they can also rush. So it is a tough combination, even though Brady has obviously had a lot of success against Dan Quinn, we know, but he's coaching at a really high level right now. So that would still be a tough matchup. Both would be tough matchups. I like the Bucs for both, but they'd be tough matchups, no question about it.
Mark Fisher's got a great question. Appreciate the donation coming through the mail here, Mark. Guys, who do you think the Bucs are? A great team with bad luck, I guess, regarding the injuries, or just a good team?
Well, I think their regular season record's disappointing, to be honest.
Yeah.
This team, especially looking at the landscape of the league, looking at who they played, I think they should have been at least 15-2, or was that right? 17 games. 15-2, I think, is what this team probably should have been this year. I think they're the most talented team in the league this season. So they have the most potential to be a great team out of any team this season, especially with just kind of in general. There hasn't been like a one dominant team all year long that's like clearly the top dog. The Chiefs look like they're getting back to that form for sure, but there hasn't been that a lot of the season. So I think they have really great potential to be a great team, but right now I would say that they're a good team, and I would say there's probably no great team right now, but we'll see. The next couple of weeks in the wild card round could change that. That could be different by the time we reach the Super Bowl. And the Bucs weren't a great team going into the playoffs last year, but certainly their run to the Super Bowl was pretty great. So
it was. I think that the Buccaneers were a more dominant team last year, especially looking at some of those point differentials in the games, right? The Buccaneers just, they dropped 46-23 on the Panthers last year, 45-20 against the Raiders out there in Las Vegas. They've had some dominant performances this year early on at home, obviously looking at the Bears game, looking at the Dolphins game. But I think that some of those losses you're talking about, the Washington loss, shouldn't have happened. And you could say the Bears game last year was a similar game to that. Mm-hmm. This Saints game shouldn't have happened, the 9-0,
There's been 3 games this year that they just shouldn't have. You shouldn't lose games to Trevor Siemian and Taysom Hill, or Taylor Heineke. You just shouldn't. And so the regular season, I think in that perspective, now I think they're a better team than last year. Like, they're a team I trust a lot more.
I think they're a better team last year's team when they're healthy, right? I think the biggest difference is this version of the Buccaneers was healthy. I think you would have seen more of those blowouts that we saw last year. And you're probably talking about a 1 or 2 loss Buccaneer team, John. I agree with you on that for sure.
All season long, there's been, we've said, there's only 2 games been played with all their offensive weapons with those big 4 in place with Brady. So, no, you should obviously, they did win most of their games without them. But, you lose guys the way that they've lost guys for large chunks of this season playing without, they still have not played a snap with their still secondary intact. So they were a much healthier team last year. This team at full strength, absolutely the best team in the NFL, in my opinion, but they're not going to be now with Godwin. And we'll see with Fournette and David if they get him back for the first round of the playoffs, which is another reason, Scott, why I think getting that 2 seed, not being the 4 seed and playing the Cardinals or the Rams in that first round, but getting the 2 seed and getting to play, no disrespect to the Philadelphia, but on paper, that's a matchup that the Bucs, that would be an embarrassing first round loss if they lost to Philadelphia. You got to take care of business in a game like that.
Exactly. Let's do some roll call, John. You talk Buccaneer football, and I'm going to throw up some of these names here. Callum's from Liverpool, obviously, and here we go, guys. Roll call.
Oh, here we go. Get the roll call in here. Jay wants to know, I just want to pull up the question real quick.
Sure.
Who's a better matchup in the playoffs versus the Cardinals or versus the Eagles? This is actually an interesting question by Jay, because the Cardinals on paper, you would think like this is a better football team. They have a Kyler Murray who's typically a better quarterback, but Jalen Hurts is like all over the map. Whether he's, obviously played very poorly against the Bucs, but they got those 2 huge, I think that 125 yards in penalties in that game, something like that, allowed the Eagles to come back in that game because of the 2 huge long penalties that put the Eagles in goal-to-go situations. But Hurts only threw for like 100-some yards. So I definitely think I would rather face the Eagles if I'm the Bucs, but just because Kyler Murray is just a more dynamic thrower and runner, I think, than anybody, probably. Then certainly he's a runner. I mean, he's up there with Lamar. But I think that with Hurts, he is kind of one of those guys that just has the it factor. And so if he's won big games, like, and that could be overused and overdone, but he's done it in college, and obviously he's made kind of a living on that. So I think the Eagles are kind of tough. And the other thing about the Eagles is nobody can throw deep against them. And the Bucs obviously overcame that and put up 28 last time and had chances. They could have scored at the end of the game. They ran the last 6 minutes out instead of scoring. But it wasn't an easy game for them, despite the 28 plus points. Like, they had to change some things. I think they'd be better against that type of cover. It was kind of a boring game to watch them offensively, even though they got it done. Yeah. And then the Eagles came back, obviously, and they sputtered a little bit. There's still no question the Bucs should
from an offensive standpoint. O.J. Howard liked that game.
Yeah, O.J. Howard did. And what I'm trying to remember, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin did not produce a lot in that game. Antonio Brown had 9 catches for 93 yards.
It was mostly AB and O.J. AB and O.J. show. And
they neutralized the Eagles' pass rush, which was a really good sign, because the Eagles pride themselves on being one of those rush 4 and don't blitz type teams, which any blitzing teams have just been destroyed by the Bucs. Like, you talk about Miami, Carolina, like they just have not survived. Blitzing teams typically don't survive very well against the Bucs. And the Cardinals are definitely more of a blitzing team, although they'll do a little bit of everything. So there's challenges, no question about it, with either team. But I would definitely rather face the Eagles, I think, for sure.
No, I'm with you on that. There's no doubt
healthy secondary against the Eagles. I don't think they're coming back from 28-7 like they did.
I agree. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So.
Giovanni Perez with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Thanks for the hard work, you guys. Why do the Packers get all the love? Bucs are the champs, and in the postseason, there's no quarterback better than TB12. Well, I mean, I think it's because of the Packers are a generational team, right?
And they have the best record in the NFL, simply.
Yeah. So and they've got a former Super Bowl winning quarterback and a quarterback who's been the MVP. I mean,
maybe the best play caller in the league. Matt LaFleur, best wide receiver in the NFL.
Right. So I mean, they get the love, and it's deserved. They're a team that there's only a couple, John. It's when you hand the baton from Joe Montana to Steve Young, right? And you go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. So you've got generations of Packers fans, right? And let's not even forget, back in the old Ray Nitschke days, the Bart Starr days too, where Titletown started under Vince Lombardi. But just, from the Mike Holmgren era, right, all the way through to present day, you've had the Packers be a dominant team in the NFC Central and then now in the NFC North for quite a while. And so they get that love. It's just like the Pro Bowl, right? It's like once you develop that reputation, it helps. Even if you have kind of a down year, you still might get the Pro Bowl love because you might have been a 3 or 4 time Pro Bowler. So you get the benefit of the doubt. I think the Packers get the benefit of the doubt. But as John says, they also get the best record in the league. You can't ignore that. You can't ignore the fact that it's probably down to Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady for the MVP. And,
right.
You've got to consider Matt LaFleur, a front runner for the NFC. Not the NFC, the NFL Coach of the Year.
Coach of the Year, right?
Yeah,
for sure. Packers are very good. I don't think there's any question about that. I do think it's kind of funny that Dallas is, and I know maybe people are just hesitant about the past because Dallas has screwed up so many times in the clutch, but the Cowboys feel like a really good team, and it feels like I'm actually stunned people are slow, it feels like, to get on board with them. I saw some people tweeting this week, they're like, the Cowboys might actually truly be one of the better teams in the NFL. I'm like, where have y'all been? Like, they have been this good for basically the whole year. Like, they're, even when Dak hit that lull where he wasn't playing as well, they were still winning games. Like, I'm confused. They have all the ingredients. Their defense is playing well and they're opportunistic. If you look at past Super Bowl winners, the defenses and secondaries have been opportunistic. They've been able to get after the quarterback with 4. They have the formula there. They have one of the better quarterbacks in the league. They have tons of weapons. Their offensive line is healthy finally for the first time in a long time. They're not really missing anything. They have one of the best young play callers in Kellen Moore. They're not really missing much. So I'd love to not play I just think they're a really good football team, and I think they're going to be in the NFC Championship game. I really do.
I do too. This kind of feels like it's Dallas's year, especially with Dak Prescott coming back, from that injury last year with the vengeance, and even shaking off the calf injury this year too, and the shoulder injury at the start of the season. I mean, I remember writing stories about, is Dak going to play in week 1, right? I mean, that was a real kind of question mark, and all of a sudden he goes out and throws for 400 yards or whatever against the Bucs. I'm not going to rule that guy out by any means.
They're very good. Mitch asking a tough question here: who's better, Favre or Rodgers? I have no freaking clue.
Well,
Rodgers is probably better, but
here's the thing:
Favre is awesome.
Favre was awesome, right? He was an incredible talent, and as much as the quarterbacks of today are really captivating. You look at the Patrick Mahomes and obviously Tom Brady with his longevity. I grew up in an era where it was John Elway, it was Dan Marino. Those were the quarterbacks I was watching. Brett Favre in the 90s. And Favre is just one of the best. I mean, he's absolutely the best. But I think, and what I've come to learn about the quarterback position, especially covering the friggin' Tampa Bay Buccaneers that have had a lot of crappy quarterbacks roll through here, especially over the last 10 years before Brady got here, is turnovers get you killed. They just do. And Aaron Rodgers protects the ball better than any quarterback I have seen. I mean, he throws a ridiculously low amount of interceptions. He does not allow the Packers to beat themselves. And that's why they have double-digit winning seasons every year. That's why. It's because he doesn't put the Packers in position to lose. With Favre, I mean, I tried to make the correlation between Jameis Winston and Brett Favre, and obviously Favre was able to overcome those interceptions that he threw, plentiful amount of interceptions, by making some amazing plays. But he also had a great defense too. Reggie White and, all those Packer greats on those defenses under Mike Holmgren, especially. So I just, if I have to pick between one of the two, and it's interesting because they each have one Super Bowl championship. That's it. Only one. I'm going to say Rodgers just because he does everything Favre can do and he turns the ball over less.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's an important part of the position. No question about it. Speaking of turnovers, Scott, this is the story of the Jets offense. They actually are not even that bad. Like, they're bad, but they're not like, everybody acts like, you could play, me and you, and the Bucs would beat the Jets. Well, their offense really is like, they've done some things okay, considering the fact that they've been totally banged up. They have a rookie quarterback. Their O-line is hurting. They're without Corey Davis for a lot of the season. Their best receiver, and Elijah Moore's been hurt too. Their other best receiver. Like, considering all that they've been up against, and they've started 4 different quarterbacks this year, I think, like something insane like that. So considering that, the fact that they are 21st in yards per game, and I know they're obviously down in a lot of games and throwing, they're 18th in passing yards per game. Like, they're markedly better passing offense than the Panthers. They are like markedly better. So, that's going to be something, but the turnovers, they just can't get away from them. Turnovers and sacks are like their whole season. They're 26 turnovers, tied for worst in the NFL, 43 sacks, tied for 27th in the NFL. Those are the two big things. That and the red zone offense being 27th. All that has culminated in them scoring on 29.9% of their drives this season. Scott, 30th in the NFL.
Brutal.
So they've moved the ball a little bit this year. They can't finish drives. They can't sustain. That's their biggest issue.
Yeah, and you look at the turnovers, right? And it's, ironically, Joe Flacco, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, like in his 2 games that he played, right? We just got through talking about Aaron Rodgers protecting the ball. Josh Johnson, the quarterback, in the 3 games that he played, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. But it's been the main 2 guys, and really Zach Wilson, right? The first-round pick, 7 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. That's not uncommon for rookies, especially on bad teams. That's right. That to have it lopsided like that in your first rookie season. You go through those hard knocks. Even Mike White, when he came in, he flashed in his first game, but then he's played in 4 games, 5 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So, they've got a total of 18 touchdowns, 20 interceptions from the quarterback position. And as you mentioned, the 43 sacks. John, you know who else has 43 sacks surrendered? The Carolina Panthers. So I would not be surprised, even without Shaq Barrett this week, if we see another high sack game for the Buccaneers, because I think Todd Bowles is going to try to do what he did against Sam Darnold and Cam Newton. And you'd certainly do it against a rookie quarterback, right? You blitz, you throw pressure, everything you can right from the get-go. We saw that right off the bat last week, right? We saw Jordan Whitehead come through with a blitz. He didn't actually get Cam Newton down. He bounced off of Cam Newton, right? I mean, great game from Jordan Whitehead. But what he did do was he set up a sack for Will Golston. So that Will had 2.5 sacks in that game. I'm not sure if he's going to hit 2.5 this week, but I wouldn't count him out. But what I do think is there'll be a lot of pressure in this game. The Buccaneers are going to try to make Zach Wilson's life miserable without a lot of his top targets.
Yeah, for sure they will. And we'll see which one of his top targets are back. But I believe Corey Davis is on injured reserve.
He is.
And then Elijah Moore was on the COVID list, but he's also hurt. So there's 2 factors there. It's kind of like the Mike Evans situation.
Yeah. And so, right now, I think their tight ends are kind of banged up as well, right? Because you've got the starter.
It's
Tyler Kroft.
Tyler Kroft is out, and Arizona COVID, and Ryan Griffin's on COVID too.
Right. So it might be Kenny Yeboah, who I liked out of Ole Miss, but he's a rookie making a start.
I don't think he's 1 target this year. He has not got a bad. This is how bad it. Like, just to give people an idea, like their leading receiver is Elijah Moore. I don't even remember how many games he's played this year, but he is probably not going to play this week. We'll see.
Right.
538 receiving yards. Corey Davis next, 492. He's not going to play this week on injured reserve.
Yeah.
Jamison Crowder has 431 yards. He's their 3rd leading receiver, but he did not participate in practice today. I don't know that they anticipate him playing. So they could be without their top 3 receivers in this game. Braxton Berrios, who was their top receiver going into their last game, and they only threw for 102 yards against Jacksonville, but it was the 14 completions. They widely considered it Zach Wilson's best start so far.
Yeah. Well, it might be
Berrios got 5 passes for 37 yards.
It might be the big Braxton Berrios, Denzel Mims show.
Denzel Mims has been in the coach doghouse. He has 8 catches all season long, but he may be playing in this game. Keelan Cole, who is actually a good player in my opinion, but he's got 23 catches this year. And then there was Michael Carter up? I don't even is he available?
He's available.
It's ridiculous. He's available.
And
okay, this was our guy, Scott. We liked him.
We loved him coming out of North Carolina. Yeah. We loved Javonte Williams a bit more, but Michael Carter for sure. This is a heck of a player. And the reason why we liked him, John, is because he can run the ball, he can catch the ball, and he's doing that. He's having a really good year. And you got to think they're going to try to lean on him, but I mean, good luck trying to run against the Bucs defense, right? But he is averaging 4.2 yards per carry. He's got 566 yards and 135 carries this year for 4 touchdowns on the ground. He's averaged about 47 yards per game on the ground, but he's also just as impactful in the passing game. He's got 35 catches this year for 316 yards. That's a healthy 9-yard average. And he's got a couple of big plays through the passing game as well. So I think that if I'm the Jets, I'm going to try to take advantage of the Bucs pass rush, try to screen the ball to Carter as much as I can, maybe do some draws, some delays, anything to try to keep Zach Wilson alive for 4 quarters against this Todd Bowles defense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the Jets offense is better than their defense. And I just don't know that it would have to be failures kind of on the level of the but the Panthers at least had dudes. Like the Jets don't even have dudes. Like
Yes.
I'm reading their numbers here, but I'm bearing the lead, and that those numbers were boosted by a couple games in the middle of the year where they threw it all over the yard in a few games. Still lost, but threw for like a ton, like 500 some yards. It was crazy. Mike White had a 400 some yard game, I think. Like they had some crazy performances, certainly, but it's just been miserable for them over the last several weeks of the last 8 weeks or so of the season. I don't really see a path for the Jets offense. They don't create splash plays. They create more splash plays than you'd think. Like I would not think that they would be 16th in 20 plus yard pass plays this season in the NFL, but they're tied for 26 with 40 plus yard pass plays at fifth, but and they can pick up some yards after the catch. So like, I think they'll move the ball a little bit, to be honest. I mean, the Panthers did, and I think that the Jets will too, but it would have to be, I can't imagine it being enough, Scott, because the other side of the ball is atrocious. Like their defense isn't even like, oh, we lost people and we're bad now. No, they're just straight up.
Well, and the thing too is right, Robert Saleh was supposed to come in and be the defensive guru, right, from the 49ers, who was supposed to come in, and it's not like they don't have some parts, and we'll get to the super chat in a second. Thank you very much, Callum, for yours, and we'll get to yours in just a second, Ted. But like Quinnen Williams, who's on the COVID list, we'll see if he plays. But he's a pretty good talent. I mean, he's having a decent season. The problem is that there's just not a lot around him, and they've got C.J. Mosley, who was better as a Raven than he's been for the Jets for sure. I think he opted out last year due to COVID, and that caused a huge bunch of consternation up there in New York because he was really counted on to be part of that defense. But Williams, he's got 6 sacks this year for the Jets. John Franklin Myers, their other defensive lineman, he's their starting defensive
He just
end.
came off COVID list today.
Just came off the COVID list. Sheldon Rankins used to be with the Saints.
He didn't practice today.
He's out of practice.
He's hurt.
He's only had a marginal impact with a couple of sacks for the Jets. So they've got a couple of pieces, but just not enough, right? And even Mosley, who has racked up some stats this year. He's got 142 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He's not even a one-man gang, John. I mean, he's been a product of those 142 tackles have come from teams running the ball on the Jets because the Jets are losing, right? And so they just don't have a lot of pieces in place, especially even in the secondary, to really help out Zach Wilson in the offense.
And these are PFF grades, so take them for what it's worth. But the only players on their team to play 70 or more snaps on defense and grade above a 68. 68 is like a little above average kind of for PFF. 60 is usually where they start, like before a game, everybody's at a 60 and then they see where you go from there. So the only players on their defense that play more than 60 are cornerback Bryce Hall, who is on the COVID list, and I don't know that he's going to be available for this game either based on the timing. We'll see. And John Franklin Myers, who only plays 614 snaps. He's a rotational player for them. Yeah. That's crazy. That's one of the worst things I've ever seen. I mean, even if you don't think PFF grades are gospel, you combine that with all the statistics we're about to get to on this defense. And I don't know, Scott, like this. I mean, Saleh needs more talent for sure. Marcus May, one of their best players, is hurt. There are a couple other, May and Williams are really their good players, and maybe Ashton Davis will become one. He's getting better and better.
Yeah, he leads the team with 2 interceptions. Yeah. We liked him coming out of Cal. He's very athletic.
Oh, I loved him. I had a first-round grade on Ashton Davis. He was my 13th overall player in that class, and he is starting to come on the last few weeks. I've seen the tweets, and I've seen some of the plays that he's made, and so we'll see if he's even available. He's on one of these lists too, isn't he? I think
he is on the COVID list.
So I think they think he's going to be back. I saw Rich Cimini of ESPN say today that they think he's going to be back, but it's tough right now. Not a lot to
Speaking of DBs, John, we've got a question and a $5 super chat from Ted Curtis. What have you guys seen from Carlton since he's been back from his injury? Is he playing at long-term contract level, or do you need to see more? I'm going to start off on this by saying Carlton Davis is, and John and I were kind of talking about this today. John did a fantastic all 22 breakdown of Jordan Whitehead. And, I agree with John in that Jordan Whitehead is such a good player, especially in the box, that he can play for a lot of teams in a lot of different schemes. But I also wouldn't put it past defensive coordinators elsewhere to misuse him too. And because I've seen that, I've just seen players that are buck fits go somewhere else and just not perform to that level. So I think that Todd Bowles uses Jordan Whitehead like a perfect chess piece. I think that he's an absolute perfect fit for what Bowles wants to do with that position. And he gets the most out of Whitehead because of that. And I think Carlton Davis is kind of the same way. I'm not saying Carlton couldn't go to another team and have success. I just think that Carlton Davis is such a perfect fit for how Todd Bowles wants that cover corner to play in his scheme. And I think that makes him more valuable to Tampa than maybe another team. Now, I'm not saying value dollar-wise, but it's all going to come down to dollars and cents. And I think that Carlton's going to get starting cornerback money, like top money, probably top 10 money for sure. But,
and he could get tagged.
And I kind of think he would.
I do too.
Will get tagged because he's missed some time. So to answer the question, they like what they've seen so far. I think they just want to see a little bit more from him, just like they want to see a little bit more from Chris Godwin.
Yeah, I have some Carlton Davis thoughts, but first, I want to let people know about the platform where they can voice their thoughts and their opinions on things, from Carlton Davis on sports to music to culture, all of it. You can do it at Spotify Green Room, folks. You can download it on the App Store, get it on Google Play, follow Pewter Report on there. Just jump into these conversations. There's Sunday football conversations, as you can see there on the screen. There's NBA, NHL, all those. All the above, you're in there. You can jump in. You can voice your opinion. You can talk to the experts and ask your questions on the mic to the experts as well. So check out Spotify Green Room. It's great stuff. No doubt about it. And then the other thing I got to let you know about is the opportunity to put a little bit of money in your pocket as we get prepared here for the new year. You can go to Underdog Fantasy right now, and there are tournaments that you can play in, and these are just going to pick up as the playoffs get underway. And there are best ball leagues you can join. There are player prop bets, over under player prop bets that are terrific too, that I love for other sports too. If you're into more sports than just football, you can check them out. But on Sunday, there'll be a ton of these lined up. So make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy. They'll double your first deposit. So if you use that promo code Pewter as a new signup, they will double your first deposit if you get in there. So I really encourage you to check it out. The app is awesome. I have loved using it. I'm not going to stop using Underdog Fantasy no matter what. I love using their website and their layout. It's just easy to understand. I go to some of these betting sites and I don't know what I'm looking at, Scott. And I'm not a big bettor. So like it's all, upside down to me, but Underdog Fantasy's app has made it very, very easy for me to get in there, spend a couple bucks, win a couple bucks. And it's been a lot of fun to play too, especially with friends. If you're watching games and things like that, it adds another layer of drama and fun to whatever you're viewing. So
John,
check out Underdog Fantasy and use that promo code Pewter.
Have you done anything for NBA on Underdog Fantasy?
Oh yeah, I absolutely have. You know that I have, and I've won a few bucks. Yeah, but not gonna lie. So I got to get back into it. I took the week off for the holidays. But I want to get back into it for the bowl games, maybe a little bit too. So there'll be some good stuff to get into. But here's my Carlton Davis thought, Scott. Is I think that Carlton Davis has played fantastic. I agree with John V here. Now I will say this: the defense has not faced a lot of great quarterback, wide receiver cores since Carlton has been back, especially. So the Bills game was really encouraging. His play against Diggs was really encouraging. He is very physical. And so, some people will say, oh, this could get called. And things sometimes get called against Carlton Davis that don't get called against other corners. I think he's had some really bad luck. But because of the way he plays, I think like he's earned that reputation a little bit. That's like the biggest drawback with him, in my opinion, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he's made plays on the ball. He's broken up a ton of passes already this year. He missed most of the season, and he still has a crazy amount of pass breakups this year. So he's gotten better in zone coverage this year. It's been noticeable how much quicker he's reacted and driven on the ball in zone coverage. I think he's a really good corner. I don't think he's like a top tier corner. I think they'll probably tag him and see how it plays out. That would be my guess. And I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think Chris Godwin and Carlton Davis are coming back. Everybody else we'll see, but I would be surprised if those two leave and answer the question there.
Yep, I agree.
All right, let's talk about the Jets defense a little bit. Here we go, Scott. You ready?
Let's do it.
I'm just you prepare yourself here because it's going to be rough. 32nd in the NFL in points per game allowed, 29.9. The Bucs are averaging 29.5 points per game, which is second in the NFL. So Jets are actually giving up a little bit more on average than the second best offense in the NFL scoring. Interesting stuff.
You know who likes that? That guy.
Tom Brady likes that.
likes
Yeah.
that.
Here's what else Tom Brady likes. They're 32nd in yards per game surrendered. They're 28th in passing yards per game surrendered. Wow. Brady finally gets to face a bad pass defense. That has just not happened all season. He's faced like the hardest pass defense schedule I think I saw of any quarterback in the league by some metrics at least. And so 32nd in passing yards allowed per attempt. So they're giving up big plays this year. I mentioned it, I think, before, but 62 20-plus yard pass plays this season they've surrendered. That's 31st in the NFL. This is the pass defense that Bruce Arians' offense was created to go against. Now we'll see who's available, but I think Rashad Perryman, Scotty Miller, Mike Evans types. Obviously,
Antonio Brown is gonna go deep.
Yeah,
on this one too. I think
everything should be available to them in terms of what they like to do.
AB coming back and kind of having that 10-yard catch per game. I'm going to, be the possession guy, move the sticks, get the first downs, keep the offense on schedule, get him into the red zone. That was AB's role last week. He dipped his toe back in the water. He's healthy now. He missed a little bit of practice time today with an ankle, but he's going to be ready to go. He's a gamer, you know that. But yes, Perryman coming back. I agree. I think Perryman and maybe this guy here too. John, he's got some wheels. You wrote about this guy today. So Grayson.
He could be a huge if Evans doesn't play again. He's certainly going to be a factor. If he does, we'll see what happens with Perryman and with AB out there, obviously, and we'll see what they opt to do. But I think Grayson has a chance to play more than Tyler Johnson moving forward. I
agree.
Obviously, I just think everything's up in the air right now. Like it could change week to week. We saw Perryman did nothing, and then Tyler Johnson had more snaps than him, but then Perryman caught the long touchdown. And so it sounded like he was going to be in line and then he gets COVID. And so, we'll just have to see how things play out, but that spots are pretty fluid. Obviously, if Evans is back, it'll probably be Perryman and AB.
You're right. And it's really interesting, right? Because they've tried to give Tyler Johnson so many opportunities, right? And then last week, he doesn't even get targeted. So it's like, I think all they're trying to say is, we're going to make this really simple for you, Tyler. You're going to block this week. We want you to block in the slot. Yeah. We want you to block on the perimeter. Problem is when he was trying to block and AB catches a pass for 1 yard, thankfully all he needed was 1 yard. But when he gets blown up, it's like if they're saying, if they're saying we're not going to give any passes your way, we want you to block, and you're not blocking well, then they're going to be like, crap, we're just going to bring in Josh Wells. We're going to go 12, 13 personnel, and you're going to be on the bench, and we're going to run the ball in a more predictable fashion by bringing in an extra tight end or a guy like Josh Wells to play tight end. But if we're going to run it, damn it, we want to at least get some yards. And I just think Tyler Johnson's been a letdown as a receiver and a letdown as a blocker. Now maybe to give him one more opportunity, but with Grayson playing and blocking as well as he did, and I mean, you heard Bruce really espouse a lot of praise for Grayson as a blocker. It just seems pretty crystal clear to me.
Right, it does. The Jets, by the way, basically don't play cover two at all. I think they're the last ranked team in terms of cover two usage, whether it's cover two man or cover two zone. It doesn't matter. They just don't play it. So they'll play cover four in certain situations, but like long yardage situations, I'm sure. But when they have their druthers, they're playing single high and they like man coverage. And
I'm already loving that.
This is why they're last in the NFL, man. They're just this is Seattle style cover three. This is what they do. They cover three, cover one type defense, and
without the Legion of Boom, right?
Without anybody. So again, the Jets have pulled off, they beat the Bengals and they beat the Titans. They were maybe earlier in the season, and I would say that they probably wouldn't beat the Bengals or the Titans today if they played, and maybe it was surprising when they beat them then, to be honest. And so anything can happen in the NFL this year, man. We absolutely know that. There's no question about it, Scott. But it is hard to find the path on paper outside of a complete meltdown and everybody on the Bucs going on COVID, including Tom Brady, that this would happen at this point, that they would lose this game.
If Scotty Miller's going to have a big game, it's going to be on Sunday. It's just going to be.
Do you think Evans will play?
I don't. No, I don't.
Even if he clears, I think
especially if it's going to be raining and wet. Absolutely not, because when you lose your footing, that's how you aggravate that hamstring.
So it's going to be week 18, and he's going to have 101 to go.
Yep, he sure is. You're damn right he is. He's going to,
and he's going to get it.
He's going to get it because Stephon Gilmore's probably not going to be playing, and they're going to be pulling people from the practice squad to play cornerback against Mike Evans, and he's going to be very motivated.
Yeah, Henderson got hurt too.
I know.
Did you notice that in the last game? I didn't even notice that. If they didn't play in the next game, they would be down their top 7 corners on the season. I've never seen that.
And they're not COVID. And they traded for 2 corners in season, John. It's like,
and they're still down 7 corners.
Exactly. So, I guess what you're telling me though is to put my money on the team that the Panthers are playing against, right? I mean,
pretty much all the time.
Well, and if I'm going to do that, John, you know where I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it on my bookie, right? That's where I'm going to go to put my money on the action. So if you're looking for a New Year's resolution, make your goal to double your money and get a head start with MyBookie's deposit match bonus. All you have to do is use the promo code PEWTER when you sign up, and you'll get your initial deposit doubled up to $1,000. With the extra dough in your account, you're ready to bet on the biggest games of the week, and MyBookie is hosting an exclusive odds boost for this year's Cotton Bowl between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Cincinnati Bearcats. I've already put money on the game, folks. I have. That's legit. I'm not reading that. I put some money on this one. Both offenses have lit up the scoreboard this season. MyBookie is making the over an even more attractive bet by lowering the total on the points scored. Both teams are top 10 in points scored per game in the nation. So go to MyBookie today. Take advantage of these boosted odds in the bowl season. And don't drop the ball. Double your first deposit up to $1,000 using the promo code PEWTER. Head to MyBookie, place your bets, and ring in the new year with the win. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
I love it. It's great stuff. The only other thing really to mention about this game, Scott, in my opinion, is looking at the turnover numbers just for the game in general. We talked about it with the Jets, but with the Bucs, they're tied for 8th best in the NFL with just 18 turnovers this season. So when I say, and obviously they're first in terms of sacks allowed too. So they're like opposite ends of the spectrum in that regard. Same as the Panthers. Like one team turns it over way too much and takes way too many sacks. The Bucs, which for even I should say any Arians team, even when they were good, they always took too many sacks and turned it over too much. They were good despite it. It just kind of, I just throw it in there to say again, the Brady factor is that Arians has never had a quarterback that's minimized, even with the horrible turnover like Brady's had this season, to still be near the bottom of the league in turnovers this year and at the bottom of the league in sacks. It's just allowed Arians' offense to experience efficiency that it's never experienced before. It might not have the 9 yards per attempt average that leads the league, every single pass, but they're still throwing it deep. Brady's the second highest graded deep passer. PFF and other advanced metrics too, I was reading the other day, have him as in terms of catchable balls and all that kind of stuff. Like, so you're still getting those splash plays when they're there. You're just not forcing them when they're not. And it's just made all the difference in the world in this scheme, along with the adjustments they've made.
Yeah, it really has. And if you go back and look at the Buccaneers since the Giants game, right, they've rattled off. They're 5-1 during that stretch. And Brady has thrown for 6, 7, 8, 9 touchdowns. Is that right? 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes. 10 touchdowns. 10 touchdowns. He's rushed for 1. And he's had 1, 2, 3, 4 interceptions. A couple of those were gimmicky. So that's winning football. When you're only turning the ball over once per game. And credit to the backs too, right? And we have not seen the running backs put the ball on the ground this year. And even the wide receivers and tight ends, they've been very careful with the football. When they catch it, they secure it. We haven't really seen the ball get punched out too often. And it's really a credit to kind of what I was talking about earlier with the Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers thing. If you don't turn the ball over, then you got to make the other team beat you. But when you help the other team beat you, you're beating yourself. And that's a quick way to lose a game in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. Some questions here. Long Lost Glazer says anything about Bruce Arians testing positive for COVID. Did check in with some people yesterday. As of yesterday, at least, he had no real symptoms. He had a little bit of a cough. That was a mild cough. We were told that's
what?
It. Otherwise,
he was coughing last week before the game. During his press conferences, I was even like, is Bruce feeling well? Because he didn't sound
Oh, yeah, and they got him a drink. I remember that now.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was related or not, but yeah. So nothing to worry about as of now in that regard. John asks if AB is being limited in practice, something to worry. I don't think so. He was limited all week last week, and Arian said he was totally fine and looked, ready to go.
Fine.
Looked like he did before.
He was a walkthrough anyways. So
yeah. And during the game, I think I saw it on the all 22. I think he steps on the pylon on the 2-point conversion attempt. I think that's why there was that, is AB hurt, consternation or whatever.
Right.
I think that's what happened. He was running a route and stepped on the pylon as he was going out. So I don't know if he rolled it a little bit. I don't know, but obviously he finished the game and played great. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully it's not, wouldn't think at this point that it is, but we'll see. Mostly worried about Antoine Winfield. What happens? They haven't put him on IR. So like they thought he was going to be back. It was pretty clear from Bruce Arians' comments on Bucs Total Access last week that he thought he had a chance to play against the Panthers, and he didn't. And so now we'll just have to see if he's back for this game, or maybe they just are saying, you know what, let's just let him rest. See if we can keep winning. Safety play has been a strength, not a weakness. So,
Sorry, it took me a while to circle back around to you, Richie P here, but yes, curious. You briefly mentioned Trask the other day, Scott. Have you heard anything about his progress recently? Yeah, I did mention that on the Monday podcast, and I did hear that from inside the building. So that's encouraging that he's developing behind the scenes, and he's spending this season mostly running scout team, right? But he's also in the meeting room with regards to picking up the stuff from the game plan. Even though he's not executing the game plan on the grass during practice, he's picking it up mentally. He's a very sharp guy, and obviously when you're around Brady, you're just soaking all that up. So far so good. Hopefully we won't see him this year. That's the situation for that. I appreciate Coach BA has a COVID whiskey cure. Maybe whiskey works for just about everything. That's my take.
Ezo says, hope Brady comes back next season. Schedule for 2022 is brutal. Schedule looks tough for 2022. We'll talk about that at length on another show, probably when we're leaning more toward that part of the year. But it definitely is tough on paper. You knew that was going to be the case when you win your division, and the NFC so top heavy. You're playing Dallas and Green Bay, so you're
and probably the Rams again.
Yeah,
which is always great news for the Buccaneers and their fans.
I guess they're playing the West anyway, so they are. Yeah, they're playing the West, which is the hardest division, and then they're playing the AFC East, which is I'm not sure how hard it'll be. They're all competitive in the AFC East. I think the Steelers will be bad next year, but the other teams are competitive at least. So it will
Speaking about next year, John, we're almost there. We're almost to 2022. Can you believe it? So 2022 is on its way. The last thing you want to be is the guy with the pubes getting in your way of making 2022 your best year, right? I mean, nobody wants that. Nobody. And we have something for you guys that will help you out. It's called Manscaped, okay? So make a splash in 2022 with Manscaped. It's the best grooming game you're going to find around, and it starts with this guy right here, the Lawnmower 4.0. It's here to take down every pube in its path. The Manscaped has engineered the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and an incredibly comfortable grooming experience. Their fourth generation trimmer, that's why it's called the 4.0, features cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to the advanced skin-safe technology, and it's waterproof, so you get your job done in the shower, which is fun. This tool is amazing. I'm confident you're going to love it. You're going to leave 2021 and all your gross pubes behind. And you know what else I'm confident about? Smelling like $1,000,000. That's why Manscaped has got refined cologne. It's the same signature scent that they use in all their Manscaped formulations, such as the Crop Preserver and the Crop Reviver. Now, these gimmicks right here, along with the Lawnmower 4.0 and the Weed Whacker, which is the ear, hair, and nose trimmer, and the Manscaped Shed, which is the convenient travel case, and the super soft, comfortable boxer briefs can all be found in the perfect package. So want to make sure that you guys get in on all of the Manscaped action. Make 2022 your best year possible and your most shaved year possible, because that's what women like.
That's what it's all about.
It's what it's all about. You can do that by going to manscaped.com, using the promo code PEWTER20. You're going to save 20% off, plus get free shipping with Manscaped. And if you want, we still have some of these Pewter Report t-shirts we're giving away. We just gave away a couple more of these last week. This is the gray one. We also have black. We also have white. So all I need you to do is, when you place your order for Manscaped with the promo code PEWTER20, you're going to save 20% off, and you're going to get free shipping. Then once you get that email receipt from your purchase, forward it to me at sr@pewterreport.com. sr@pewterreport.com. It's going to have the information that I need, which is your address, so I can send you the shirt. But it doesn't have any of your financial information, which I don't want. So make sure Manscaped can help you ring in the new year. So make sure it's a Manscaped new year. Promo code PEWTER20, save 20% off and get free shipping.
Yep, it's good stuff. Appreciate spiritual sniper. I'm have to get a Celsius and a ball raiser after this for sure. Richie says,
Yes.
Us here in Nutbag, Germany, believe in Manscaped 100%. Incredible.
Fantastic.
Great stuff. All right, let's sign off here because we got to go our predictions real quick. 30 seconds each here. I am taking the Bucs to win this game because they are better at every aspect of football, probably with their backups, than the Bucs or than the Jets.
I agree. So you're going to save your score for
I'm
Fridays?
Yeah, I want to see who's available.
Yeah,
if the Bucs have their full complement of play, they're not going to have their full complement of players, but they should win by 20 some points at minimum.
I'm going to say Buccaneers win big, regardless of who's available, just because they're the Buccaneers and the Jets are the Jets. So as long as Tom Brady plays into the third quarter, I think the Bucs are good. Then put Blaine Gabbert in to finish and keep that undefeated streak alive for Blaine.
Obviously, we'll see. COVID could change our answers, but we'll see what happens for sure.
Yeah.
All right. We appreciate everybody jumping in. This is great stuff. Tomorrow on the podcast, we'll be back. We got a nice little Q&A lined up. Matt and Casey, I think, are going to be on. We'll see who else Casey's on. I don't know, but Matt and Casey will be on for sure. And there's going to be a good time on the show. So make sure you're tuned in for that tomorrow on Pewter Report. Get your questions in. They'll be ready with the answers as well. So we appreciate everybody. Pewter Game Day on Sunday. Again, noon pregame. 1 o'clock kickoff. Paul and I will be with you through the game. Make sure you subscribe, Pewter Report TV. Hit the like button on our videos if you would, please. That helps us out a lot. Until next time, thanks so much for listening to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.